Unleashing Leadership Potential's mobile app will enable you to view and listen to our monthly leadership conversations about leadership development through engaging with prominent ethical leaders, hearing their stories, and learning from their successes and failures. Access premium content and teachings for a small subscription fee. By downloading the app, you can access teachings from Maurice Khadebe, access monthly free content, exclusive Q&A sessions, stay up to date on our up-and-coming events. Download the app now.
You're in for a terrific time with my good friend Maurice Radabi and his organization of Unleashing Your Potential. Boy, do I believe that. But I'm unfortunately unable to be with you for a number of reasons. But I wanted to just give you a short session of something to chew on with your leadership this period where the taping is taking place. Every once in a while you stumble upon an insight that changes you, and you use that insight the rest of your life. I'd like to share with you one of those I stumbled on a long time ago, and it's about leadership. It's about leadership performance, and it's about the zone of where you play your game of leadership. Are you in the professional league? Are you in the intermediate league? Are you playing out, with the people who barely know how to play the game? Where is your leadership performance? It's a zone. And I want to talk to you about that. But if you don't mind, I'm going to share a couple humorous stories about learning about that zone, that performance zone, when I was in high school a long time ago. We attended a small high school in the area, and I loved athletics growing up, and so we began to compete. And I remember going along the track one day, and the coach, I wasn't officially on the track team, I was doing something else, and he says, "Hey, Wilkinson, can you jump over the high bar there?" And I said, "I don't know." He said, "Well, go ahead and jump over it." So I didn't know how to high jump more than probably the average person, and I just ran straight at the high bar, and I jumped right over it. I didn't come from the side, I just ran and jumped over it. And he started yelling, "How did you do that?" I said, "I don't know." He said, that's a Wilkinson flop. I don't know how you did it either. Can I put this bar up higher? And I said, "Well, okay." As he puts it up higher and higher, and I was jumping about this high. And he says, you should be on the track team. And eventually I got on the track team and ran the hurdles and ran the 440 and the high jump. And eventually, I kept doing this crazy jump I had of going straight at the bar and going over it until I broke the school record, and I broke the record in all 12 other high schools. And so lo and behold, the coach says, "We're going to go down and compete in the big city of San Diego." I had never been in the big city of San Diego, and we kind of lived out in the country in a small town. We had a great time, and we all went down to San Diego. And this was the big competition, and we were in this kind of stadium for a college, a university, and there were all kinds of people, and just like the Olympics, only it was a local high school thing. And so on the ground there was the high jump pit. And the other guys were warming up from the big schools that would have thousands of students in it in San Diego. And the highest I ever jumped was a little bit taller than I was. I jumped 6 feet 2 inches, just barely over the top of my head. And these guys from the big schools who were much taller than me were in their sweats, and they were warming up at 6 feet 4 inches. They were warming up 2 inches above my life record. And my parents were there in the stadium, and I'm hoping I can get over the warm. I couldn't get over 6'4" no matter what I did. And I learned something about this zone. What level are you playing in? Because if you're in a little tiny league and you do really well, you may think, okay. But if you join the big leagues, the okay there, they don't even warm up at that level. That happened the same thing with tennis in high school. The same thing happened. My friend and I played first doubles, and we beat everybody in the school, and then we began to compete with all the other high schools in the area, 12 of them, and we were undefeated for the entire year. And we were feeling, pretty hot stuff as kids. And they brought us down to another big town where there were professional tennis clubs. I couldn't believe it. Never heard of a professional tennis club. And because my buddy and I had never lost, it hit the papers in that town. And out come these rich kids. Oh, man. They began to warm up, and we were warming up, and the whole little stand around this tennis court was there. We were so far out of our league that they beat us 6-0. And by the time we were about the fourth game of the first set, the people in the stands, they left. And we just wished we could get out of there because we didn't have our own coach. We didn't know how to play tennis like that. And once again, I ran into this. It depends which league you're playing in, what zone you are. Well, now think about your leadership. I want to talk to you about the leadership performance zone, the zone, and whether or not your zone is moving up or not. Does it make sense to you? Because the challenge of leadership isn't just the people that you're leading who are following you, but that you are leading them to places they've never gone before. Bigger ventures, more significant ventures. That's what a leader does. Gets the team that's a part of who they're leading to achieve a certain category against some other challenges or opportunities that are around. But do you move your zone up? That's the question. Or are you still on the same zone that you were when you started? If your zone was this big and you got up to here and you're thinking, all right, I'm in the top 10%, but your zone hadn't changed? You didn't get out of the minor leagues and at least start in the major leagues? Why not? That's that zone. Let me see if I can't sketch it for you. This is how I think about it. So here is a zone. Let's say you operate within this zone. Let's say this represents your company manufactures something, perhaps, and you sell it to other companies. And this is the smallest order that you will take. And this is the top. Maybe your biggest is to sell 300. That's the biggest order you've ever had. And maybe the smallest that you'll let somebody buy from you is 10 widgets. And this is the greatest. And obviously, the way the bell curve works, your sales are probably a small number of here, the majority in the middle, and a few up here. But that's your leadership performance zone. Leadership performance zone. What's the challenge? Do you think that that's it? Why do you think that way? It doesn't need to be this way. So Well, what's the challenge? The challenge then is, how do I move the bottom? How do I move the bottom up? And how do I move the top up? And what happens if you say, I think our smallest order, we're not going to waste time with this because we actually lose money by the time we do everything to get just 10 widgets sold? Our smallest is going to be 50. And we're not going to do any of this anymore, waste too much time. And we're going to go, I don't know, well, how about 1,000? We're going to go, we want to sell some 1,000 orders. Oh, there you go. Look what's happening. You move the whole zone up. Now, what should you do with the orders that used to be here from 10 to 20? It's foolish to let those orders go. So you get somebody in your organization, low-paying person, and you say, you get all these orders. Or you get another company that's your competition and say, listen, I'll send those orders over to you if you give our company 20%. And you just get rid of it. Because it takes the same amount of energy to service this person as it does this person. And until you free up more time and capacity, you're going to be stuck in this zone. You'll be stuck at the 6 feet 2 inches and think you're hot stuff, when you haven't even hardly begun with the potential that God has put in you. Now, I can't go much, back in those days, I couldn't go much more than 6'2", but maybe I could go outside of that and find somebody else in the school that could jump 6'6". That's the way a team is. As a leader, you don't think you have to be the high jump leader. What do you think? You think, how can I be the coach that our team and all the players in the team can keep defeating our opponents? That's right, you build your team. And if you, like so many leaders, fall in the trap that you think about your top category is the best you can do, you're stuck. It's not the best you can do or the best I can do, it's the best this team can do. That's why I've been trying to help a major organization in the country that's gone through trauma lately, actually the last 3 years. And the board asked me for help and the other leaders. It's been difficult. And I said to the board member the other day, I said, don't you have any other people on your team that could take the leader's place now that this has happened? No, not one. I said, come on. You have hundreds of people. Yeah. But the leader always made sure he never hired anybody that remotely had as much talent as he did. Oh, how sad is that? That's where the leader has to be the star. He or she isn't happy unless they're the star. I want all of the spotlights on me. No, you don't. You want the spotlights on the team. And every player you hire that has a specialty, maybe they're good at the 100-yard race or the marathon or the low hurdles or the high hurdles or the javelin or the shot put or the pole vault. Everybody on that specialty better be better than you or you got the wrong guy on your team. Hire above you. That's what we've done here at Teach Every Nation. We got some people on the team who are just flat out extraordinary. And no matter what person we have in that slot, every one of them is better than I am in their slot. They are. Why hire them if they're not? Because if you don't have people that are more competent in an area that you want them to excel in, you're not going to excel. But you as a leader, you got to move this up. So let me give you an illustration. Would that help? It's kind of a personal illustration. Many years ago, when I started in ministry and had to raise funds for the ministry, I think the zone of our donors was here. If you gave $10, wonderful. And if you ever gave us $1,000, we would get everybody in the organization and celebrate. That was our zone. That was our leadership performance zone. Well, eventually I began to understand this. Well, move the zone up. So we began to say, how can we get donors to give us $250 up to $5,000? And I used to write a thank you letter to all these people. But there were so many of them, I was spending all my time. And then I said, everybody who gives less than $250, I don't have time to write them a letter anymore. You write the letter from you. And I'm going to take these people here as president because I have limited time, and then my staff will do these people. Whoa, guess what? The amount of money we raised here is huge. So now, we've had some $1 million gifts. The zone. The organization goes all the way down to here. Where do I stay as president? Because the president in fundraising needs to be the person who talks to the key donors. I'm way up here. And then other people on the team take care of this part, and other people take care of this part. Where's my zone? It's right here. I don't have any more time in my life to give to people, even when I want to, because the organization's been growing. So where's your zone? Think of it. Is this making sense to you? We could talk about this in all kinds of ways. So, most of you are in business, and you're a leader in one way or another. Some of you are CEOs or division leaders. Some of you may be, leaders of some kind of religious organization, a church or a nonprofit, an NGO. One way to see how you're doing is to compare your leadership performance zone based upon how each employee is reaching the goal that you have. What do I mean? Well, in a sense, let's say you're a for-profit organization. You exist to generate profit for the owner or the shareholders. And the question is, if you were to take all the profit you earned in the year and divide it by the number of employees you have, you'd have the profit per employee. So when you start, let's say you're not very profitable and you're averaging $2,000 per employee of profit. And don't be so shocked, because that happens all the time, less than this. Because people get excited about revenue rather than profit. The point is how much is left over. And your point is, move your zone up. How do you get it so your employee averages 5,000? That's a leadership performance factor. How can you organize them, inspire them, challenge them, lead them so they are more productive? How do you do it? That's what a leader does. A leader seeks to maximize the people on their team. Sometimes that's through brainstorming, sometimes that's through a serious conversation, sometimes it's giving them a whole new section of responsibility and authority. Sometimes it's saying, let's take this part away because it's a pain in the neck to you and you aren't that good at it, but man, are you good at this. Let's give you more here. So you're kind of carving this junk out of that person's life so they can shine in that which they're really innately good at. How do you get up here? 100,000 per person profit. Why not? Don't you dare say you can't. What kind of talk is that? Why would you think you can't? It's just that you haven't, not that you can't. Go back to the donor perspective or the size of the customer you're calling on to sell them what you manufacture. Everybody kind of feels comfortable with somebody who can give you $25. Depending upon how much money you earn and how you were raised, you may feel a little bit uncomfortable talking to somebody who can give you $10,000. Right? You may feel, I don't know what I would say to them. I don't hang around with those kind of people. Okay? But you'll never get here unless you can become comfortable with them. What are we talking about? Your zone of comfort. What about somebody who can give you $1 million? What stops us here is two different things, actually. It is we feel intimidated because we don't see ourselves that way. And what did you do? You stuck your lid right here. As far as I can go, because this makes me feel afraid. The other thing we feel is inhibition. This is external. I feel intimidated next to that kind of person. And this is internal. Oh, I'm just not comfortable. Just thinking about that person. My mouth will go dry. I wonder what to say. Okay. So, unless you change your zone, your performance is stuck. So, I spent a number of years helping other countries in various ways. I remember the first time I met with the president of a nation. I'd met with senators and congressmen in my life in America, but I'd never met with the president. And so this was the president of a different country, and I could barely say my name. My mouth was dry, and I didn't know what to say. I was so intimidated meeting a president, and had lots of inhibition. Who am I to go talk to a president? You know what I mean? But the president was so generous and so kind. And by the time the meeting was over, I realized he's just another human being who happens to have a title called president. Why was I so afraid of him? And my box grew. My zone moved up. When you're dealing with a business guy, when you're dealing with somebody in the parliament, when you're dealing with somebody on the cabinet, And when you're dealing with the president of a country, the action that you're able to do grows like that. They're another person just like you and me. So what are we so hung up about, for Pete's sakes? And somewhere along in the time I met with 11 different presidents of countries, I realized I could help them because I have skills they don't have. And I began to help presidents, not in areas that their competency was far beyond mine, 'cause I can't, but in areas in which I have competencies. Do you realize what happened? The zone. I don't want to meet with the president. What would I say? What would I do? So, where is your leadership performance zone? In whatever category you want to think about. How can you move it up? How can you go from this league to this league to this league to this league? My conclusion in my own life after all these years, we build a box and we have to bend down to get in it. We feel confined with fears and I can't and inhibitions and intimidations, and we don't realize we're the one who built the box and we're the one who's crowded. We built our box. Just take the lock off the hinge and open it. Well, we could talk about this for a long time, but you got the big idea, don't you? This idea of what zone you're playing in. You can be big stuff in a little pond, and you can stay there if you want. If your biggest need is to get affirmation, stay there. But if you mature, you realize, I don't need affirmation, I need to help more people. Then that little pond is too small. And you feel a little uncomfortable, but you get out of it, and pretty soon, may you be unhappy until you're in the free ocean. And there's no inhibition, no intimidation, no top. You've moved year after year after year because you wanted to contribute more every year. The leadership performance zone. Go move it today.